mysterious, secret, and terrifying. These are just some of the words that can describe what really happened behind the locked doors of the Soviet Union's darkest laboratories, while the USSR was building rockets, launching satellites, and racing the United States. A secret world existed in the shadows. In this video, we dive deep into chilling stories of forbidden experiments, some real, some shrouded in myth, and some that blurred the line between horror and reality. Let's start with the most infamous urban legend, the Russian sleep experiment. According to this infamous story, in 1947, Soviet researchers imprisoned 5 men in a sealed chamber, filled it with an experimental gas, and ordered them not to sleep for 15 days. Everything was monitored: microphones, cameras, even guards outside. The reward for the volunteers, all prisoners, was freedom, if they survived. At first, the experiment went smoothly, but after several days, the laughter and conversation stopped. Soon, screams echoed through the metal walls. By day 9, complete silence. When the researchers peered inside, they saw the unthinkable. The prisoners had mutilated themselves. Some had killed each other. A few even begged to be locked back in if it meant getting more gas. A true tale. No, this story is a creepypasta, an internet legend. But what made it so believable? Because some real Soviet experiments were truly horrifying, let's look at what was real. Laboratory No. 1. The poison factory. Deep in the pages of Cold War espionage lies the true story of Laboratory No. 1, also known as the Camera. Established secretly in the 1920s and operating for decades, this laboratory's mission was to develop the most effective, untestable, undetectable poisons for the KGB. What's worse, these substances had to be tested in the field, in other words, on human beings. Political prisoners were often used sentenced in secret. They simply disappeared into the system. Subjects were exposed to toxins ranging from cyanide to mustard gas, and even uniquely Soviet inventions like C2, a nerve agent said to bring calm just before death. Most records were destroyed, but defectors told stories of prisoners who were perfectly healthy, fed a secret poison, and described the strange sensation of being frozen inside their own bodies mere minutes before dying. These experiments were hidden under top-secret codes and layers of bureaucracy. Even the KGB didn't fully know what the scientists inside these labs were doing. Sleep deprivation and psychological manipulation. For the Russian sleep experiment is fiction. The Soviet Union and many other countries did conduct real experiments with sleep deprivation. In the context of interrogation, brainwashing, and mind control, prisoners were subjected to sleeplessness for days, bombarded with lights and noises, and questioned by rotating teams until their sense of self began to dissolve. Some resisted, but many cracked, giving false confessions or simply breaking down. This wasn't the stuff of internet legend, this was the cold reality of psychological warfare. Experiments with extreme conditions. During the Soviet era, doctors and scientists were tasked with understanding how humans survived extremes: cold, starvation, radiation, even near-dash drowning. In secret clinics and bases, volunteers, sometimes volunteers in name only, were subjected to freezing temperatures to test survival limits for Arctic pilots and cosmonauts. Scientists at biological institutes force-fed subjects salt solutions, starved them, and even tested the effects of rapid decompression. One of the most notorious was the work at the Kirov Military Medical Academy, where animals, and it's rumored, sometimes prisoners, were exposed to lethal radiation levels to better understand how soldiers could survive nuclear war. Most of these details remain classified, with only fragments leaking into the public domain after the fall of the USSR. The Dyatlov Pass incident. No documentary about Soviet horror is complete without mentioning the Dyatlov Pass. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers died mysteriously in the Ural Mountains. Their tent was ripped open from the inside. Some corpses were found half-dressed. Several suffered massive injuries, and a few had radioactive contamination. Theories still swirl: secret weapons tests, a failed KGB experiment, UFOs. To this day, the real story remains a mystery, fueling endless speculation. Unethical human and animal testing. While Western science often points fingers, the Soviet system had virtually no oversight. This allowed brutal studies, surgery without anesthesia, to measure pain response, attempts to transplant animal heads or organs, resulting in short-lived two-headed dogs, trials of biological agents on small towns or remote prisons. Even after the fall of the Iron Curtain, testimony from scientists and surviving records reveal stories of patients subjected to experimental drugs, mind-altering chemicals, and procedures with no chance of benefit. The truth about Soviet zombie projects deep in the KGB archives are stories half-whispered among spies about efforts to create obedient soldiers, brainwashing, drugging, and psychological conditioning. Most failed, sometimes with tragic consequences. But what's most incredible is how these legends have blended with reality. Western horror writers and filmmakers fascinated by USSR's reputation for secrecy built entire genres around these could-be true tales. Movies like Experiment and YouTube horror channels now retell the sleep experiment, Dyatlov, and other Soviet black site legends for new generations, blurring the line between fact and nightmare. Why did it happen? The USSR was obsessed with control of its people, its enemies, and even of the basic limits of the human mind and body. The drive to compete with the West led to breathtaking achievements in science and technology, but also to unspeakable abuses. For scientists caught up in this system, ambition often replaced ethics. Orders from above mattered more than the safety of the people below. How did people live with the knowledge of this horror? For most, these stories were rumors, whispers, passed in line at the market, in the dark after the TV signed off, or in the forbidden sections of samizdat magazines. Few knew the full extent, and many did not want to know. Soviet propaganda painted a picture of progress, but just beneath the surface, shadows moved. The legacy, why these stories haunt you today. The truth behind many Soviet experiments remains hidden, but the legacy, real and imagined, lives on. New scientists and journalists still uncover survivors, declassified files, and more evidence that pushes the borders between fact and fantasy. Even now, the thought of secret labs, vanished prisoners, strange gas, and forbidden rooms chills us. Maybe what scares us most is not the things that really happened, but the things that could have happened, and the knowledge that sometimes, in the name of progress, ordinary people vanish into the shadows, never to return. So as you finish this video, ask yourself, how much of what we know is legend? How much is real? And what secrets are still waiting in the darkness, under lock and key, where only the next generation of curious minds will dare to look?